The world has been fascinated by reports of UFO crashes since the infamous Roswell incident of 1947. But a lesser-known UFO crash has haunted the little town of Kecksburg, Pennsylvania since 1965. In this tiny town, locals claim they saw a fireball tear across the sky and crash into a wooded hollow a few miles away. At the crash site, witnesses saw a large, metallic, acorn-shaped object bathed in colorful lights. The military later claimed it was simply a meteor, but those who saw it maintain it was a craft from another world. Kecksburg was never the same.
It's heavily wooded. There's very few houses around. I can imagine something happening in the middle of the night. The whole town's gonna know about it if you see smoke, and you're gonna go find out what it was.
Ben is headed to meet with a local reporter who has been documenting UFO sightings and testimony for over 50 years.
Hi, Stan. It's nice to finally meet you.
Nice to meet you, too.
So could you kind of just take me back to that evening?
As there was news breaking on the radio and TV station around Pittsburgh that this brilliant fireball had been observed. Whatever the object was, it fell into a wooded ravine near Kecksburg here in Mount Pleasant Township. The witnesses who saw the object locally said it did not come down at a high rate of speed like you would have, for example, with a reentry of space debris or meteor, but it came down almost like it made a controlled landing. One of the witnesses, who was a volunteer fireman, he had been called out to search for a possible downed aircraft. So he and his few guys hurried over, and there was a little embankment there. And that's when they come across this large, metallic, acorn-shaped object semi-buried in the ground. And one of the witnesses was actually tuning up a CB radio.
Okay.
And there was actually some talk, some chatter on there from people who had seen this thing coming across the sky. And as he's looking up from the dash, he sees this brilliant fiery object moving across the sky from Norvell.
Across the sky. I've never known a meteor where I could get that communication and go out and look in the sky and it still be there. I mean, meteors come down like this, you know, within a second or two, and they pass over you, they're gone. So it amazes me that if this was a meteor, he's hearing this and has time enough to get out, look up from his car and still see this thing and then see it change direction.
He said this was big enough for a man to stand inside of, approximately 10 to 12 feet in length, about 8 to 10 feet in diameter. But on the back of the object, like the back of the acorn, there are raised up markings that looked more like symbols than writing.
According to eyewitnesses, the symbols were not from any recognizable human language.
So as they're down there, two men came down through the woods, and right behind them are soldiers, looked at the object, looked at them and said, "This area is now quarantined. You need to leave here immediately."
Wow. So what happens after the military pushes everybody out of there?
Some of the witnesses back then were young kids or teenagers. And some of these teenagers apparently found a way through some of the roadblocks. And one of the witnesses saw something interesting too.
What did witnesses see in the woods that night?
And I could see his voice begin to tremble, and he said, "I swear to God, sir, there was something inside of that thing." And he goes on to tell me how a military officer jumped on top of the object, and he struck the object. And he said moments later, this hatch opens in front of the object. He said, as a matter of seconds, I can hear metal on metal hitting, and it closed. And then the officer started screaming and yelling, hurry up, we don't have much time." And that's when they lift it onto the flatbed truck and get it out of there.
Stan details countless eyewitness reports to Ben.
A lot of these people said, I would swear under oath about what we saw.
Nothing supports the government's claims that a meteor crashed here that night, leading Ben to believe the truth has been covered up. In hopes of discovering what really happened at Kecksburg, Ben contacts Jenny Zeidman, the last remaining member of the top-secret government program, Project Blue Book. Starting in 1952, Blue Book investigated thousands of UFO encounters. And Jenny kept files on all of them, including one on the 1965 Kecksburg incident.
It's so nice to see you again, Jenny.
How do you do?
Good. I just met with Stan Gordon, who interviewed hundreds of witnesses. They claim a UFO crashed in the woods and military personnel carried something away.
Yeah, we have a lot of really good stuff to share with you.
I can't wait.
Joining Jenny and Ben on the investigation is UFO historian Mark O'Connell.
People just flocked to this alleged crash site.
Is this the Blue Book file?
Yeah, this is.
December 9th, 1965. Conclusion, Meteor. So this is one of the news reports. Officials state that a meteorite was probably the cause of it all, but the object was traveling much too slow for a meteorite. There is also evidence that it changed course in flight. You've got witnesses who say that this slowed down and then changed direction.
The idea that this object was a meteor. That's about as ludicrous as I've heard.
Jenny, what's your overall opinion? Do you think it's possible the government covered up a UFO crash in Kecksburg?
Oh, sure.
So why do you think that the government seems to still be hiding these close calls that we've had with UFOs?
Because that shows our weakness, that we can't control or anticipate. That is going to mean that we're the victims.
Do you think we should prepare for the worst then?
We can't. What can we do? They're so far ahead of us technologically. I'll fly really off the handle and say we're doomed.